Order. Point of order, Mr. Hugh Bailey.
First, Mr. Speaker, I am sorry I let my indignation get the better of me, but I have a point of order which I hope you will consider. I went twice to the vote office this morning to see if I could get a copy of the annual report, to read it before we heard the statement, and was told that it wouldn't be available. I wonder if we could change our procedures so that where a minister is presenting a document to the House, as well as his statement being circulated around the chamber, the document itself is, or even better, put in the vote office under a strict embargo, say an hour beforehand. I wonder if that's something that could be considered, Mr. Speaker.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for his point of order. Of course, it is not a matter of current practice, and the fact that it isn't is what the honourable gentleman judges to be unsatisfactory and he seeks a change. It seems to me a perfectly reasonable subject for consideration by the Procedure Committee, and I doubt the honourable gentleman will require much further encouragement to take it up with the right honourable gentleman member for East Yorkshire. If there are no further points of order, we come now to the 10-minute rule motion. Order. Point of order, Mr. Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Mr. Speaker, I wondered if you would be willing to rule on the question of hybridity relating to the bill that is about to start its second reading. The Speaker previously has defined a hybrid bill as a public bill which affects a particular private interest in a manner different from the private interests of other persons or bodies of the same category or class. Clause 19 of the bill we are about to get treats some bishops of the Church of England in a different way from the class of bishops in the Church of England. And I therefore wondered, Mr. Speaker, as this is very important in relation to the Parliament Acts, whether you would consider referring it to the examiners of petitions for private bills to see whether or not it is hybrid.
I am extremely grateful to the honourable gentleman for notice of his point of order. As he will know, and has, I think, just indicated that he knows, a hybrid bill is a public bill which affects a particular private interest in a manner different from the private interest of other persons or bodies of the same category or class. The key phrase here is private interest. The only interest of bishops affected by the bill is that of being part of the legislature. That is a public interest and not a private one. And accordingly, no question of hybridity arises. I hope that that is helpful both to the honourable gentleman and to the House, not to mention the bishops. Point of order, Madeleine Moon.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. In answer to my question in Home Office questions on the withdrawal of guidance to door supervise the staff of licensed premises, the Minister replied that she would look into the issue and get back to me. Mr. Speaker, I have placed parliamentary questions on the issue to the same Minister on the 11th of June and the 25th of June, and also received an answer from another Home Office Minister on the same issue on the 15th of May. Can the House be assured that this issue will be seriously looked into and appropriate guidance issued in future before guidance is withdrawn?
For her point of order. It sounds to me as though she's had thus far an interesting but inconclusive exchange, but I know the honourable lady, and she has a terrier-like quality which is unsurpassed in any part of the House, and I can advise her only to redouble her efforts not to settle for what she regards as an unsatisfactory answer, but to pursue the matter vigorously, for the time being, however, not through a point of order, but perhaps outside the chamber. We're extremely grateful to her. We come now to the main business. The clerk will now proceed to read the orders of the day. Order. Point of order, Mr. David Tredinnick.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if you've heard of the reports on the 4 o'clock news that the programme motion will not be moved this evening, and whether we are expecting a statement, please.
I haven't heard the reports. I wasn't listening to the 4 o'clock news, and as the honourable gentleman well knows, that's not a matter for me, and it's certainly not a point of order. If there are no further points of order, we come now to the 10-minute rule motion. Order. Point of order, Mr. Gordon Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to raise the point of order for which I've given prior notice. Mr. Speaker, as my honourable friend, the member for Sheffield Central, made clear earlier in Prime Minister's questions, ministers are poised to announce detailed plans to scrap direct financial support for over 350,000 adult learners and replace it with a loan system. Now, their own regulatory assessment suggests 150 adults falling by the wayside as a result. And yet, Mr. Speaker, we are being told that regulations will be laid imminently by the negative procedure just before this House's summer recess, offering no opportunity from government for debate. And so I ask you, Mr. Speaker, is it in order for these changes to come into force, as they will, on September the 1st, before we return here? Is it acceptable that the further education sector should see the largest change in adult learning funding in a generation, with no opportunity offered to members in this House to question ministers or have a debate on the floor here?
Well, I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for notice of his point of order. The matters which concern the honourable gentleman do not appear to me to raise any questions about the rules of the House, and therefore they are not a matter for the Chair. No doubt ministers will have heard what he has just said. It is open to any member of the House to table a prayer against a statutory instrument. Moreover, I would emphasise that it is today Wednesday. The House will not rise for the summer recess until next Tuesday. So there are opportunities for the honourable gentleman to seek to debate this matter, whether in government time, in opposition time, or indeed in backbench time. I hope that that is helpful to the honourable member. Point of order, Diana Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would seek your advice, Mr. Speaker. I wrote to the Minister of State in the Home Office on the very important issue of firearms on the 4th of January 2012, again on the 27th of March 2012 and on the 21st of May 2012, plus 2 telephone calls to his private office to ask for a response. Today I have still not received a response, and I wondered whether you could advise me if there's anything further I could do to seek a response from the Minister.
Well, the honourable lady is an experienced and assiduous member of the House, and one thing that she can do is to raise the matter on the floor of the House, which she's just done. It is perhaps fortuitous for the honourable lady that as she has done so, she's done so in the presence of no lesser figure than the Deputy Leader of the House, who, together with the Leader of the House, I know attaches great importance to timely replies from ministers to backbench members. This is a point I have repeatedly made. Ministers must answer to honourable and right honourable members, and I hope that the failure thus far to do so will be speedily communicated to the Minister, and that the Minister will make good in time. I hope that's helpful. We come now to the 10-minute rule motion. Mr. Andrew Rosindell. Point of order, Mr. Jamie Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the course of yesterday and again today this morning, a series of inaccurate statements were made by health ministers. What powers exist in the standing orders of this House, sir, for you to ask health ministers to return to this House and correct inaccurate figures given on NHS budgets, delayed discharges and accident and emergency waiting times?
The short answer to the honourable gentleman's attempted point of order is that answers to questions are the responsibility of ministers. Similarly, in the event of an inaccuracy known to the minister, it is the responsibility of the minister to correct the record. The honourable gentleman is a determined and persistent chap, and I feel sure that he will pursue the path of righteousness to his satisfaction. If he remains dissatisfied, no doubt we shall hear from him again. Point of order, Diana Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a question to the Health Secretary on the 11th of July, he told me that the Local Government Association had said that that local government was being given sufficient funding to cope with provisions in the new social care white paper. However, on the same day, the LGA released a statement saying that there wouldn't be enough money to provide these services to anyone other than the most needy or those who can afford to pay for all of their own care. I wondered, for matters of accuracy, whether the Secretary of State could then correct the record.
Sorry to disappoint the Honourable Lady, but in material terms, my reply doesn't differ in content from that which I've just offered the Honourable Member for Copeland. It is, at least in part, a matter of interpretation. But I said that the Honourable Gentleman was a persistent chap. Well, the Honourable Member is a persistent woman, and I feel sure that she will pursue this matter in a way that she judges fit. And if there are no further points of order, I shall now call